231. That's the average number of apps used by many companies. This leads to a lot of context switching that can distract employees and costs your company. Luckily, Grammarly can help. Grammarly's AI works in over 500,000 apps and websites, making it easy for your team to crank out clear, on-brand emails, documents, messages, and more. In just one click, they can go from blank page to first draft, all without leaving the page they're on. Grammarly has 15 years of experience building effective, secure AI that can be implemented in days with minimal IT overhead. It goes beyond basic grammar to help tailor writing to specific audiences, whether that means adding an executive summary, fine-tuning tone, or cutting out jargon. Join 70,000 teams who save an average of $5,000 per employee per year using Grammarly. Go to grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly, enterprise-ready AI.
Adil Amarsi, thank you for being with me today. Thank you, my man.
You're very welcome, Eli. Thank you for having me.
Okay, everyone. I met Adil in a group that I was in, and he gave some amazing nuggets of gold. He's highly skilled copywriter. He's got a huge amount of information to share, and he's very confident, and so he should be, because he's good at what he does. As you can see, as you can hear, he's smiling at the moment. So, Adil, just let us know, what do you do exactly? And just tell us a bit about ourselves, and then we'll take it from there.
So for the longest time, I was considered a copywriter, like literally 22 years of my life. I've been in this industry for around that time. I went professional in my industry when I was 18. So I started at 12, went pro at 18 when I first started getting paid. And yeah, so from 18 to about 32-ish years old, 33 years old, I primarily worked as a active copywriter, meaning I was taking on clients, I was writing advertisements for them, I was getting paid as a freelancer, wonderful times. But over that time, I developed a bunch of other skills. So like the true definition of a copywriter is not someone just writes words on paper and that's it. Salesmanship and print. So you got to know every aspect of sales. You got to know how the sale is done. You got to know exactly how this marketing funnel goes. You got to basically make sure you have product knowledge. You got to know the research, the audience. You got to basically figure out all these different aspects, which a lot of people, my peers today, don't do. So in a nutshell, I'm now known as a conversion consultant. So I basically just get hired by companies to look at their entire business and then go, this isn't working, this isn't working, this is where your messaging is completely off, this is what you need to do, change it. And then I basically come in and fix all those things for them. So it's a lot of fun for me. Like I enjoy doing it. I don't have to do any of the writing implementation, which is quite nice. I also get hired to critique copy. So if, say, you've got a website or a sales letter or something like that that's not converting, you'd hire me. I'd look through it, tell you what changes to make, and make the changes with you, and then explain why, and then just send you on your way. So that's kind of like a nutshell of what I do professionally. Outside of that, I mostly teach copywriting, which is quite fun. And I also have a new podcast coming out in a couple of weeks, which is going to be quite fun as well. So I'm enjoying my foray back into the world of flexing my creative muscles, if you will.
Adele, you've got so much going on, and I'm glad that you've actually put things in perspective, because a lot of people think copywriting, as you already know, and you've just broken it down, is literally just writing some copy and just straightforward. But there's obviously a huge amount of moving parts, which is where the experience comes from and where you've built up that experience that you've already given. So it's not literally straight GPT. Now everybody's a copywriter, right? Because but there's more to it.
Yeah, as we used to say, like in photography, it's like you can anyone can be a photographer. You give a camera to a monkey, they're a photographer. That's basically as simple as it is. And now you have GPT. It's the exact same equivalency to me, but it's not. And again, this is the thing that I've railed against this for the last 9 years almost, where I haven't considered most of the copywriters in the last 9 years, like a staggering 98% of them, not real copywriters. Because to me, they're the glorified guys that basically, or girls, that sit behind a computer and just think, this is all I do is just type words up. But they don't do any of the psychological work that goes into it, the deeper research, the understanding. Like the reason why I managed to rise to the top of my industry to where I am. And just as an idea, because again, I want to really drive this home for the listeners at home. I've worked in 423 different marketplaces. So that's a lot of different markets.
It
I've done
is.
over $1 billion in sales for my clients. I've influenced hundreds of millions of dollars for other people, by them taking my studies and actually gone through and actually used my implementation, my frameworks to actually make huge businesses out of them. And the reason it's all been successful is because I study psychology. I don't actually study sales so much. I study humans. And that's basically the big secret that everyone should really look at. If you really want to make a lot of money, study people. Because when you can understand how people work, you know exactly what to do to actually get them to buy ethically.
So would it be right to say it's a situation before you even think about the words that go on the paper, but actually how people actually function from the point of view, think from one stage to another, wherever
Yeah,
that journey may be, you start with that basis first.
I start with where they are, what they're thinking, what problem I'm solving, what problems they might be having. And then I also go to another level, which is what are they feeling? Not what are they thinking, what are they feeling? Because feelings are the things that sell. So it could be like, I'll put you in a situation. You have 10 million in debt right now. Your business is actually tanking horribly. Your wife's about to leave you. Your kids hate you. And you can't sleep at night. And I have a sleep aid that's actually going to help you with that. Now, in my head, I'm looking at this from the perspective of if that's the person that's coming to me, they need a lot more than good sleep. They need a few other things in there. But let's just say that same person, while having that same thinking, happens to have zero, and I mean absolutely zero F's given, like no F's given whatsoever. I'm not going to swear right now, but like, I don't know if we can, like they don't care. They don't give a flying F. Yeah. Because in their world, they're like, I might be down 10 million in the hole, but last year I did 30 million. So I know there's a payday coming just right around the corner. We don't know their situation, but what we do know is their sleep is off. We don't know how the other factors are. The thinking part of their brain will make them think, I can do this. That's their ego telling them, I can do this. This doesn't matter. My wife's leaving me. Forget how. Find a better wife. My kids don't love me. Well, forget them. They'll be out the will. Like, they will just be tyrannical if they need to be. But how they feel, I don't like how my sleep is. I don't know if I can get up in the morning. I'm not as active. I'm not as productive. Those are factors I can influence. So I'm writing, when I'm thinking about who I'm talking to, these are all the things that go into it. And then I start to like look at how my product affects them, and more importantly, how it's beneficial to them. So if I'm writing specifically to them, that's where I write to. But if I'm writing to the mass market, I find the average person that's basically out there that's got a 9 to 5. Well, it's actually not 9 to 5. It's more like an 8 to 7. That they're working with travel and commute. They're not having a lot of time to sleep. They're basically constantly on the motion. They feel like they're not doing enough. They're stressed out. Life is getting crazy. Politics and culture have got them running all over the place. So it's just like one of those things. It's like, how do I tap into that marketplace, that feeling of overwhelm, and sell them the solution? I know we haven't even begun, but like, this is just where the brain kind of goes to when it starts off with like how copywriting is actually done.
Well, I tell you what, Adil, I can hear the passion within your voice. And obviously for you to get to that passion, you obviously had to go through a process yourself. And you're obviously confident, and you're confident for a reason, because you've worked your ass off to get to that stage, right?
Yeah.
You've had to go through the pain at some point to be able to get to that confidence. Now, what I'd like to drill down to, because it's all very well, a lot of people in business, they tend to always go through that actual, that stage where trying to get the blueprint of how to be successful. Be it a copywriter, a marketer, it doesn't matter. But you can give the blueprint to so many people, and there's a reason why over 95% of people fail, right? Now, what I'm trying to drill down to you, because you have a great mindset, let's go right back before your confidence actually developed, when you were quite low before you got to that stage. And I want to find out from you, when you were quite negative and you thought something had to change before you became to change your mindset to become to this journey of success, where were you at? What happened in your life?
Okay, so this is a hard question, because I remember you did ask me this beforehand, and I was like thinking, what's the best way I can actually answer this? Because the answer is, I've gone through so many of those points. And that's what people don't realize. Like, I've had, as my mother and I were talking about this before I went away from a pilgrimage not too long ago, she said to me, there's been so many times you almost come out on top. Like, there's like, you're like an inch away from breaking through to like making millions of pounds.
Yeah.
And then just something happens and it everything's pulled out of you. Like the rug is pulled out underneath your feet at the last moment. She goes, and this has happened not once, not twice. She goes, I can count at least 10 times this has happened to you in the last like 15 years. And I'm like, yeah, because every single one of them was a low point. Like, just to give you guys an idea. So I was suicidal up until I was about 17 years old. Like I had 7 suicide attempts by the time I was 18. Because my brain was just not functioning correctly. And again, now I know this autistic ADHD and massive overwhelm. I didn't realize it back then. So couple that with trauma and whatever it is, you're gonna have a concoction for disaster.
Of course.
But like the realities I'm going to answer this in a multitude of ways. So the first way I'm going to answer it is, before anything else, I've always held my faith. My faith for me has been the strongest thing that's pulled me out, and we'll discuss this a little bit later. But if we establish there's a baseline of faith for me, but life will still invariably kick you in the nuts. As I love to say, it does kick you in the nuts at the best and the worst times possible.
I agree with you. Hallelujah.
Oh yeah, it's not a fun place to be. So if I could, I'm going to pinpoint three very specific pinpoints of what got me here, and then a fourth that's kind of a bonus. So the first one was getting dumped by the first woman I loved. Like, and I was an idiot because I was 18. I didn't know any better. But she dumped me, and of course that really messed my head up in a way that it did. I mean, simultaneously as getting dumped, I ended up getting a back injury because my original plan in my life was not to be a copywriter. My original plan was to be a Thai boxer. I wanted to go into Muay Thai and fight professionally and competitively. I ended up catching a back injury over Christmas, and I remember waking up during Christmas that year, I think it was 2007, and my spine was locked up. I couldn't even get out of bed. I was literally stuck in bed. My entire spine was killing me. And because of that, I had to give up on that dream, essentially, because the more I focused in on my business, the less I focused on my physical therapy and getting back into the gym. Coupled that with a heartbreak, and all low points kind of hit me. And again, I remember hearing one of my first copywriting surrogate mentors I listen and read to, even to this day, is a guy called John Carlton. And John Carlton used to talk about how you can use negative energy as a driver. Like positive energy is great, but I use negative energy. It was like, all right, people can't tell you what you can do. Go do that. So I kind of used that over the first like low point in my confidence to start building up. And again,
let me hold you there, Adil. This sounds interesting. So let's be specific. Just give me 30 seconds. I'll give 30 seconds to explain the negative energy. How did you do that? How did you use negatives? Because everybody talks about positive. Yeah. But how did you use the negative in 30 seconds? Negative energy. How did you use it to your advantage?
Okay, I'll summarize that in a sentence. You think you're better than me? That was it. That's literally all I needed. You say I can't do this and you think you're better than me. All right, let's go. I'm a hyper competitive person. Like I've calmed it down over the years. And even for the longest time, I didn't think I was competitive, but no, I am a very competitive person. Like you put me in a situation like the old Will Smith quote, which is like, you put me on a treadmill next to you, you better be willing to die.
Right.
Because I ain't getting off that treadmill. I don't care how broken my body is. I don't care how tired I am. I don't care if my back is blown out. You're getting off this treadmill before I am.
I love the resilience. Well done. Yeah.
Thank you. And at that point, I'd already tried to kill myself a bunch of times. So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Business became my saving grace, which is, I had enough negative experiences to drive me forward, and so many voices to be like, you can't do this. I'm like, I got to go do it. So that was kind of like the starting point. And again, the next thing that I had to overcome was I had a really bad time with grammar when I was younger. So I used to put apostrophes everywhere. I used to put commas everywhere. And it was like really bad. Reading my early copy, I'm like, man, how did I actually even come from this? This is terrible work. So like there were low points of confidence from there. And again, I built myself up. I kind of like pulled myself up by the bootstraps. So that's the first time that happened. The second was when I was 24 and I had moved around a little bit at this point. And I decided, I was starting to get some wins on the board. I was making okay money. I think I was making I was 24 years old. I was making like 30 grand a year. Like at 24, 30 grand a year is a good income. Anyone out there that thinks it isn't, it's a good income. It's a very livable income, especially at the time in the UK. But I wanted to make a move to London. So I moved from Leicester to Plymouth. I was in Plymouth. I was going to move to London. The place I moved into, I got a deal with the landlord at that time that if I paid 6 months of rent up front, I can actually keep a cheaper rate on the place. Like the place was worth easily $2,000 a month. I was paying like $1,600. So a big step up in the rent. It was like £1,000 more than I was used to paying. But when I moved down there, a series of weird, unfortunate events happened. I had a $15,000 client coming in, but because they were paying me from a Swiss bank account to my UK bank account, that flagged. By the way, that flagged on my bank statement. So my bank basically they returned the money, and they actually started an investigation to what I was doing.
Right.
While I'm moving to London. So I'm going to London. This is on a Thursday night. I'm supposed to get paid. Client's like, yo, money's in your account. I was like, superb. Check my account. There's no money. I get a call from my bank on Friday morning going, hey, we got to speak to you. I'm like, great. I'm actually heading to London while I'm on the phone with these people. So I'm in the moving van talking to the guy on the phone. And they're like, because it's a Swiss account, it looks a little bit dodgy. We can't really accept it right now. You're going to have to speak to your client about a different way to pay you. I was like, what's wrong with this? They were like, you can't, again, because my age and everything else. And there's a few other factors to do with my history and a mismanagement of how I basically didn't have good money sense and intelligence at the time. So I was like freaking out. I finally got to London. I spoke to my landlord then and said, look, I'll resolve this in a week. I'm going to call my client. We're trying to go back and forth. He's trying to get everything done on his side. In the end, he's like, you know what? This is way too much of a bother to send you $15,000 to do the work. It ain't worth it. I'm just going to pull the contract. So essentially in the space, because of my bank, I lost £15,000.
I hear you. I feel you.
And this is when I actually, oh God, it was painful. But what came next really broke me. Because I had to come up with $10,000 to pay my landlord. So he was really cool, but like at the same time, I started avoiding him. I started making sure they didn't answer the door when he came over. I wouldn't pick up my phone calls. I was trying to gather the money and pay what I could when I could, all simultaneously. The thing that broke me at my lowest point, though, was I remember having a discussion with a family member that's very, very close to me. Not my mom, love my mom, or my parents, actually, for that matter. And it was a different family member I was talking to. And I said to them, listen, I know you were planning on buying a place in London, and I know you're not doing that now, but is there any way I can borrow like £2,000 for the next month? I will pay you back in 1 month's time, because I knew I could get the money back from them. Their response was, I'll give you the $2,000 if you leave London. I was like, I can't leave London. And I knew what it was. It was an envious thing because they wanted to move, but they didn't move. So now it's like an envious thing to try and get me out of there. It wasn't said from love. And I remember like the conversation kept going because they kept calling me. And every time they called me, instead of being loving, they're being very attacking, like to the point that I broke down in tears. And I was having a full on like mental health crisis at that moment. And this person would not relent. So I kept hanging up the phone, didn't want to talk to them. And it was a bit of a fractured relationship for a while. But that was like the second point that really hit me. The third point was years later. Like the third point that really knocked my confidence in was probably the worst one was always about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, January 15th, I remember the date and I remember the time perfectly. Like the entire events are written down, but I also, because memory changes the events, I wrote this down so I don't forget exactly what it was like. So I can't make things up. It's that. At 3:15, my mom called. I remember waking up that day. It felt weird. It was January 15th. I woke up feeling weird. 3:15, at 3 o'clock, my mom calls me, but I'm on a phone call with a client. I say, hey, listen, can I call you back in a minute? No worries. I say, hey, can we reschedule? It's like, yeah, no worries. I called my mom back, 3:15. She's like, your dad's going in for heart surgery. He had a heart attack this morning. Okay. I knew that he was in hospital. I know he was going through COVID. I'm like, okay, no worries. For half an hour later, I'm in the kitchen. I get a phone call back from my mom. I pick up the phone. She's crying. I immediately knew what happened. Like, I just knew immediately. And I was like, Mom, what happened? She was like, he's dead. Your dad died.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It broke me. It actually broke me. I was so grateful one of my best friends was in the house with me. I literally sat on my stairwell and just sobbed my eyes out while they were trying to look after me and stuff. And my cats were freaking out because they'd never seen me really cry. They're like, oh my God, what's going on with him? But the thing that really broke me, was I was working with a client. I was 2 weeks late on a project delivery. If you hear them say I was 6 months to work on this and I was months late, I was like, dude, we've only been working together on this project for 4 months. I'm 2 weeks late. Read the freaking contract. It's all in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I messaged my client and I messaged like both of them, like, hey, listen, I'm really sorry I'm late on this. My dad's been in hospital. Just found out that my dad's dead. I'm going to need a week to grieve. I'll be back on it to deliver. Just need to do the edits. Their response was, no, that's okay. We'll take a full refund. You dropped the ball. It's okay. It happens, but you slipped up. So somehow my dad dying and all the emotional stuff somehow does not affect the fact that I was writing advertising, because like what I do is very emotional. So that was a real kick in the teeth, balls, and backside. Like it was a triple trifecta, because like at that moment I made a decision. It was a moment of clarity because it really hit my confidence on a low point, because it made me really wonder if I was any good. Like again, and we're going to touch upon this as well. So I'm giving you like 3 low points in my personal life, but there's one particular one that I'm going to give you as the 4th one as a bonus. But this one really made me question whether or not I wanted to keep working with clients. So that was really bad. And then the 4th one, which is the bonus little one, which we're going to touch back on. So you're going to take a second. The 4th one was the first time I had to process a refund. That was one of the low points, because I'd never had to process a refund before, because I'd always succeeded. So like I'd gone on like 8 years. I had pretty much like consistent success. If I couldn't deliver on the product, I just gave the money back. But this is, I delivered on the product. They ran the ad. Didn't do well. Instead of letting me run the ad again, they just straight up asked me for a refund, and that was a low point. So I was like, am I any good at this? I don't know what I'm doing. This is the first time losing, blah, blah, blah. I just felt really lost. And I was like 24 at the time when that happened as well. So like it was a bit of a thing back then. But anyway, yeah, so those are some of the low points that really kind of kicked the crap
All right,
out of me.
let's go back on that when you had to make that refund. Now, I know a lot of people that have been in a similar situation where they've always succeeded on their high points and with no problems. But then there's a situation where they have a big fallback. But they've always said that's always been the best thing that's ever happened, because what's happened, it's a situation where it makes them stronger. And losing is actually not a bad thing. It makes you see things realistically, so you can go forward on a continuous consistency. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Did you feel similar or different?
Looking back, yeah. It made me start giving less of a crap about things. Like I'd give a crap about my work, but if someone said, I don't like this or whatever it is, I'd go with it. And again, there was another reason. So for the reason that refund kind of went through the way it did was because the person kept editing everything I was writing. Right. So actually, like they would edit my work before it went out. So what they actually put out wasn't really mine. It made me kind of come back with a resilience to it, to be like, in my contracts, if you edit my work, I am no longer responsible for what happens next. Like that is on you. Like you're the one that's basically going to have to deal with this. So it made me very resilient. It gave me a huge idea of what I wanted to do. And to touch upon like just a question that you had asked me like offline as well, like that low point that triggered my biggest change was my dad's passing. That was the one that basically was the one that gave me the biggest change in my career. It's the one that took me out of writing for clients and just consulting them.
Right, and exactly. I mean, after hearing all those low points that have accumulated to now, this is what's giving you the experience, the confidence, and this is why it's really important to discuss these things, especially as men. We don't like to cry, right?
No.
But it's important to. It's important to cry. I did so the other day, where I was in a group and someone touched on something particular, and I cried, and I thought it was a good thing, because it triggered, it let me know what was real and what was not. All right.
Yeah.
So to hear you have no problem saying, okay, I cried because of A, B, and C, it's got you to a point where you've accepted the situation for what it was, and you've moved on and become stronger. While instead of trying to actually dig a hole and filling it with your past, you've actually taken it, turned it around, and you've become a better person from the point of view, not only from your personal life, but it sounds also from your business life.
Yeah, massively. I mean, like, just to touch upon that, like for 28 years of my life, well, for 15 years of my life, I killed off all my emotions, because my emotions were the things that were getting me into trouble.
Right.
And then at 28, I went through a very, very, very intense therapy with a friend of mine that broke me. Like internally, it literally snapped me. It like my body was trying to kill me while I was going through this therapy. Like that's how intense it was. It was 4-day intensive. I ended up getting strep throat. I was bedbound for 2 of the days. He would still make me go do the work while I was there because I was with him. He was like, "You ain't quitting. We're going to go. We're going through to the other side."
Yes.
I pulled through the other side, and I started to bawl my eyes out. Like it never fathomed me. Like as a man, as a young man at that point, that I could cry as much. And again, now I cry as often as I need to. Like when I was in Saudi Arabia, I cried practically every day for the first 2 weeks I was there. I was crying my eyes out. I even cried last night. I was talking to a friend about an experience I had and started weeping. I was like,
wow,
this happens. And
that's
again, the funny thing is men, people can say crying is weak, but I would love for anyone to test me and say that I'm weak. Please bring it. It ain't gonna end well for you.
No. What I see is a very strong person, because for you to actually go through that school age where you tried to commit suicide quite a few times, then you went through the situation like most people, they were affected with a girlfriend, and then you went through a back injury, and now I can resonate with that because I did that last year. I had a problem with that and I couldn't walk. So I feel you. I know I know where you're coming from, and I cried like a baby. Trust me, that's painful. And then those other things that we've already spoken about, and then for you to come out the other side does not show me a weak person, let alone a man. So you've done really well to get to this point. What I want to see is, what is that silver thread going through your life that has kept you where you've been able to hold on, such as your faith, be that some kind of religion, some spiritualism? What has been constant in your life that's always been there and still there now, which always helps you to get up when you've been thrown down?
It's my faith. Genuinely, it's just my faith. So I'm Muslim, and one of the things I always say is that it's God's plan. That is, I always come back to, whatever I've planned, if it doesn't work out, God has something better for me. God has something better for me. And that is a core belief for me. It's not even a throwaway sentence. It's just something I wholeheartedly believe. That, and also without being egotistical about it, because again, there's a fine line between ego and confidence. Okay. I've looked at myself at a deep level and gone, what gifts were given to me? And I've been blessed with a lot of gifts, but with a lot of gifts comes a lot of responsibilities, and with a lot of responsibilities comes a lot of challenges.
It does.
So it's just one of those things I learned very, very early on, that you got to shoulder the burdens and you got to keep going forward. Because again, there were times in my life when I was younger, I remember saying to friends, it's grateful that you think I'm confident, which is real. I'm very grateful for that. But when I was younger, God, no, it's there's another level of confidence that's above where I am right now. I don't feel confident. And then I've had conversations with people when I was 26, talking back to them about when I was 26 years old. They were like, yeah, you came off like an arrogant prick. Everyone thought you were a bit of an arrogant prick. I was like, why? They're like, because you were just like this or that or the other. I was like, but that was just who I was. Everything I told you about who I was at the time was real. I might have been faking some things, meaning I feel good about myself. But all the core stuff, the things I did, the way that I moved, the way that I operated in rooms, all that was pure. And they were like, oh, I get it. So your confidence was just quietly there, but you just didn't realize it. And then again, up until I went into my 30s, as I get older, my confidence just keeps building. I just start getting more confidence. And that is something, if you're younger than 30 years old, trust me, the day you turn 30, your life is just going to start flipping you. So the confidence kicks in at 30. I don't know why it does, but it really just does. Yeah. But one last thing I will say, just as I said, going back to the whole thing, faith has been the big thing for me that's kept me constant in my confidence. And the other thing, which is, it's funny, but it's my voice. It is genuinely my voice. I actually sound more confident than I really am. My voice lies for me. It's the funniest thing. I get you. Yeah, a friend of mine, David, was like, yeah, you've never sounded unconfident. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, whatever you're thinking in your head, if you're like, this sounds really unconfident, unsure. He's like, what comes out of your mouth is hello, I'm extremely confident. You should be totally listening to me. I was like, how is that possible?
Totally. Look, I listen. Again, I resonate with you with that point of view. I mean, a lot of people say that I'm confident, but trust me, I'm not. It's just that I throw myself into a situation because I know it needs to be done. Now, do you feel that yourself, even though you use a form of confidence, But is there something behind you that's really, you're not really confident, but you do what you have to do what you have to do?
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
To a degree. I mean, within ethics, like I know what needs to be done to do the job that I've taken upon myself to do. And if I wasn't capable of doing it, I wouldn't have taken it on.
Yeah. I get it from a job point of view, but from a personal aspect, when you're interacting with people, let's walk away from the business, because the personality side of it is fundamental, because for your business to work,
your personal has to work.
Personality straight. So let's forget about the business side of it. But from the personality, when you're meeting people or certain things that you've had issues in the past, do you have issues with that pure confidence there? Is it a situation that, I'm not quite confident with that, but I'm just going to take that stance anyway because I know it's the right thing to do? Or you've got to a stage in your life where, you know what, I built to this and I'm now confident because I've gone through those pain points. Does that make sense?
There are lots of those. There's other stuff like there's certain beliefs I have that I don't expose to the world. There's certain views I have that I don't really talk about publicly, because the reality is it doesn't serve the greater good in my book. And the way that I mean by that is there's certain thought processes I have that if I spoke them out loud, that it would cause more conflict and more pain and more drama for me. So I don't really need it. So I have the confidence now that if I'm in a situation where I can sit down with someone that tells me I'm clearly wrong about something that I'm 100% right about. I'm like, dude, you cannot lie to me about this. You cannot tell me I'm wrong. I'm the dude that knows the stuff in this. And I can happily just be like, yeah, totally, you're fine, you're right. Because in my head, I'm like, I don't care. I honestly don't care about what you're thinking right now. Your attitude, if it's someone I care about, I'll go ahead and actually have that conversation with them. But if it's someone that I genuinely don't really know, I'm like, I stop caring about their opinion. Their opinion just stops mattering. And that's happened a lot of times in my life. Again, the biggest changes happened when I turned 30. And I give this as a birthday card to every one of my friends. It's a card I designed that's called Welcome to Level 30. It's like the F's factory, or the X factory is going out of is going into administration, and every single year that you get older, that company is going to start shutting down and you're going to start giving so many F's, and your life is just going to get better. And honestly, it's one of the best things ever.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, look, I try to make things real because there's a lot of people out there that are listening and they're going, how to be successful? But as I said before,
confidence.
To be successful, it's not just a blueprint. It is a mindset. And I'm trying to show people, you have your low points, right? We are human also. And the reason why we're successful is because of that great mindset, such as yourself, that when you have your lows, you still push through no matter what. Just like when your mother was saying to you, God, you've had so many points where you've almost made it, you've almost paced it. But because you never gave up and you kept on continuing it, the next point could be the point where you go for the roof, right?
One more. Yeah, it's one more. You just got to dust yourself off one more time.
Exactly. And it's as simple as that. So I would say to people out there, just keep on pushing no matter what. It seems like there is just no way it's going to happen. But such as yourself and other people that I've spoken to, they've all gone through the same process. It doesn't happen from A to Z overnight. You have to go through A, B, and C. It is
all the way to Z, and it is a kick in the nuts at every single letter. I think if there's anyone that plays video games out there, I'm going to give you guys a perfect allegory for business, for success in life in a video game. Play Elden Ring or anything from the From Software company, like Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, any of those games. Play them, because you have to get used to the concept of dying and failing every single moment. You will it is the dumbest and best game. The best description I have heard of that video game is you don't get abandoned as a teenager, you get abandoned at birth. That is just you don't graduate to the game. It's day one out the gate. It is so hard. It's there's no warm up to this game. It's we're just going to do a quick tutorial and we're straight into anything can kill me. And it's a perfect representation to how I view life, because the reality is, and to answer your question a little bit further, just go expand on the point I said, and what you said about confidence. Confidence is a big key, but so is compassion. So are ethics. So are morals. so is kindness. Because there is
Absolutely.
many a time that I have wanted to do things that I'm like, this is morally wrong. This is unethical. This is unkind. This is not good. Like, and you have to pull yourself back away from them, because the reality is, the people that are like this, their comeuppance come very quickly and very often, and people don't talk about this. Like, there was a guy that I know, who shall remain nameless, who stole intellectual property from me, who stole my branding from me, who lied about me inside like inner circles around people that I respected and respected me, that didn't know me as well. And he knew them really well, lied about me, just like as a way of stumping my career. Dude might have millions of dollars in the bank right now, but I know he stays up at night. I know what makes him worried. I know that he has like addictions right now that he's fighting with, and I wish him the best. I really do. But I know the struggle and the pain and the stuff that he's gone through, because he's not a good person. And the reality is, sometimes being a good person in my books is far better than having millions of dollars. Like, I'd rather be able to sleep at night comfortably than go uncomfortably to bed knowing that someone out there is plotting to take what I have away from me.
Yeah, I totally get you. And what I like to what you said is that it seems like you've forgiven him. It is what it is, and you've walked away from that fact. And what's the reason for that? Because most people would have held on and been quite negative to that person. Why, from your point of view, have you let that go and moved on?
Because God took care of it for me. Like, this person lost a huge business. They got found out as a scammy piece of crap. They've burned their name in the industry. They have beef with multiple people that are bigger than I am in the industry. They have done some horrible things that people are there. Basically, this person has karma or life or God, whatever it is you want to say, F them more than I could. Like, I could. But the reality is, I looked at it and said, what's serving me on this? This dude was an enemy that served me to drive me for a while. I need a new enemy. I need something else that's bigger, that's going to motivate me, a new challenge. This doesn't challenge me anymore. And that's the reality of it all. Like, the person stopped challenging me in that way, and it stopped hurting. And I realized very quickly, I was like,
beautiful. No, beautiful. And that's a great way to come from it, because what happens, a lot of people hold on to resentment to people living in their life. But what that does, initially, it holds you in that state in the past, and you can't move on to the next biggest thing, or the next thing that you need to do, right? And this is why I think it's important to, okay, it is what it is. Forgive the person, move on, so you can go to greater pastures. And you have, again, that mindset, and that's how you've grown as you've gone along. And so moving on from that, what is your routine? So the routine, you have a routine every day, all right? You get up every day, and you have a routine every day that keeps you focused on the way you want to live your life. What routine you carry out on a daily, weekly basis?
So my current routine, the one that I've got today, is a little bit different than I used to have it. Like, that's the strangest thing. Like, my routine today is quite different because it's being rebuilt. Like, the reality is, it's being rebuilt. So the way that I have it usually is, there's a few things I just do every single day, like without fail. Every night before I go to bed, I have a list of things that I need to do the next day. So I usually have either a yellow legal pad that has on my to-do list, or it's on my phone. So I just have my to-do list, which is always nice. So I know where my brain needs to go. I changed the structure of my week. Like, I don't work Wednesdays. I do a half day on a Friday because it's a sacred day for me. I take Saturday off entirely, and I take Sunday just to finish up any work there is. I technically only work Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday most days of the week. Like, that's usually what I do. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday is like my actual work week. But my routine basically involves waking up, it's again, like I said, it's changing. So I'll give you the one that I'm doing right now. Resistance bands in the morning as soon as I get out of bed. So I do resistance band weights instead of like lifting weights. I get to do a little bit of resistance work, which is fine. Go for a walk if I can do it. I start my work at 9 a.m. I finish by about 1 or 2 p.m., which is my big crux work. I usually tend not to do any phone calls before then, unless it's something like this where it's just I can get it done quickly, and I enjoy something like this. And then the rest of the day is work on stuff, make my prayers, cook some food, spend time with my mom, enjoy my time, go see friends. And any social media time I have, I just try and get it done as quickly as possible. I don't want to be on social media too much. And I also now I'm setting aside time to read every day. I'm setting aside time to actually study every day. I'm setting aside time to do things that I want to do. And there are weeks and days where I feel lazy, which also happens, but I also have stuff that's flexible. As long as I get the big things done on my day, the rest of my day is mine. As long as I can get my to-do list done in the 4 hours that I have, great, I can do whatever I want. If I want to play games all day, guess what? After 2 p.m., I can play video games till 10 o'clock at night if I wanted. And I can't feel guilty about it because I've done the work that I need to do.
Right. Okay. So let's look at them more. Let's see. There's a difference. Now, I take it before that you did that routine, because what happens? You work, I take it, less than you used to be.
By a huge, huge margin.
Right. Okay. So let's look at that. So if we go back to how you used to work quite a lot compared to how you are now, do you find there's a difference? And is one more efficient than the other? And why?
Yes and no. The other was because I married my identity to my work for a very long time. My work and my identity were very linked. So it's I knew who I was, but my work was always part of who I was. So I'd work 7 days a week at times. I wouldn't care. I'd enjoy my work. Whatever it was, I want to take a day off, I'll take the day off. I'm still probably going to be working that day. I'll wake up in the morning, write 3 emails, and take the rest of the day off. Whereas now, I don't even open my laptop unless it's to watch a movie on a Wednesday. That is very much I wake up in the morning, I hang out with my friends, I talk to my friends around the world on different, if I'm using stuff on my phone, that's great. If you send me a business question or hey, can we get on the phone? Can we do this? My answer is, I don't work Wednesdays. Let's meet tomorrow. Wednesday is my day off. I need it to recharge. I do stuff that recharges my batteries. Good. And before, I never used to do that, because before I used to think that I was an endless Energizer bunny from hell that would just keep going. Now I'm the endless Energizer bunny from hell that has a full recharge every single day rather than running on fumes.
Wow. And I like that. I like that. If I could just stop you there, because a lot of people think the more you work, the more productive you are.
Yeah.
And so this is why I wanted to discuss this, because I understood why you did what you did, because you have to keep your energy high, and to do that, right? You have a routine to keep that energy high.
Oh, 100%. And just to finish off what I was going to say real quick, one of the biggest lessons I learned was after my dad dying that year wasn't the only death I had. The entire year, I had my dad dying, my uncle dying, 4 of my friends dying, including the last person that died that year was a very close friend of mine of 28 years. It was a continuous kick in the nuts. That entire year was just continuously one after the other. And that, plus running and working a business with a business partner where I was kind of running my energies into the ground. I moved from the UK to Africa. I lived there for 6 months, and then I moved back, and then tried doing all of this while also dealing with grief, anxiety, depression, not knowing who you are, just a whole myriad of things, just one after the other. It was a shitstorm coming down the drain. Yeah. But all of that had to happen. Literally every single one of those things had to happen, including going through several heartbreaks where I thought I found someone that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. And you end up on this cycle where you're just looking for dependency and love, and you're looking for connection and truth and what is outside of you. And again, every single one of these literally brought me to the point where I am today. But what I'm trying to get at is they all made me realize that drained my energy on top of working 7 days a week. So the best people were getting from me was a 25% adult. They were never getting 100% me. Mm-hmm. And if they got 100% me, the rest of my life would suffer. Oh, you know what? I want to spend my whole time with you. You're going to get to know the real 100% me. Great. And then the next day I am flat because I can't show up for work. So I've used that 25% of work energy for a social situation. I've used this for this other situation. Then truthfully, one of the worst parts that really happened in terms of relationships was having someone see the real me and then reject the real me. The whole you're too much, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing, whatever it is, and then you just realize a lot of it's just internal thought that you basically have they're projecting outside to let you know what you're already thinking. So dealing with that deals with the external. So go into it today where I'm at. The biggest shifts happened. And the biggest shifts are that I have complete faith that I know where my life is going. I know what I need to do. Nothing is really wrong. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Exactly where I'm meant to be. I could be oh, I can complain. I could have made $1 million yesterday. No. focus on your energy, get the rest that you need, take the time that you need, rest, sleep, relax, take the time. Because the reality is that me that can show up every day at 100% is infinitely more productive than the me that could show up 100% one day.
I agree.
Yeah,
because I used to be a bit of a workaholic myself. I'm working 7 days a week, and I used to, just sleep on 4 hours sleep and etc.
Same.
As much as I could do that one time, it then became very inefficient. So I totally get that. Just moving on, I want to ask you, with all the things that you've gone through and all the experience and the hardships, etc., how do you use those experiences to help others? How do you affect others coming to that point? Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
I really like that question. So it depends. All my copywriting experience from my work and my business and my life, I make sure that I mentor other copywriters. I make sure I mentor other business people, tell them what to do, what not to do, because I've gone through the experience. All the stuff I've gone through in my life, and by the way, as a core belief I have for me is all the stuff I've gone through is here for me to help others not make my mistakes. The path I have walked is there for so others don't have to walk that path.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So if someone has a problem, I'll talk them through it. If someone has an issue, I'll talk them through it. If someone has something that has happened to them, I'll talk them through it. I'll walk them through it. I'll show them what to do on the other side, because for me, it really is all about giving. And how I do that is I'll tell stories, I'll hop on calls with people, I'll do private phone calls with them. I don't care how it's done as long as it's done. It's the reason I love doing these shows, because how we met, I gave 100% of what I had. That wasn't even everything I had in my tank, so it was only 90 minutes, but like it basically became an idea in my head that like, if people think this is me at 100%, you ain't got nothing yet. Like, this is 19 minutes of what I'm going to bring. There's a tsunami behind me. This is a trickle of water that you're getting. It's like a glass that you're getting from a very, 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 it's not even a well, it's an ocean out there, and you're only taking a glass. Like, with that same mindset, I'm like, hey, I'm never going to outgive God. That's number one. I'm never going to be able to do that. I'm never going to be able to out-inspire him. But what I can do is I can give the resources, tools, advice, experiences I've been given in life, and move that forward. Whether that's telling someone, hey, listen, you might have gone through a suicidal situation, or, it feels like life could be closing in on you, and then having a conversation with them, showing that there is a better way, that's a win. It could be that the business owner who's actually freaking out, they don't know how they're going to make their ends meet the next month, showing them how to get around that same situation, that's a win. Like, wow. Or even just reminding someone there's resilience on the other side. It's like, just hold on. Just hold on one more month. One more month. You don't know what's going to happen. Just play full out for one more month. And you never know what's going to happen. So like, those things inspire me and keep me going. They keep me going by helping others, keeps me inspired, because then I see other people's lives and I look at them and I'm like, man, look at how great your life is now. Look at what you're doing. And I never turn around and say that I was the causality of that. I just like looking at that and going, I'm so grateful I can be part of your story, to be like, I got to witness this.
That's right. Exactly. Totally. It's, my big belief is that we're all part of a journey, right? So we're there sometimes in people's lives for a day, maybe a year, maybe for the rest of our lives. But the point is, we're all part of the journey. So, and that's where the power lies. So this is why I like it when you come back and you say you're there to help people, because by helping people, you're helping yourself.
Exactly.
Right? By teaching people, you're teaching yourself.
Exactly.
And I find it powerful myself when I'm educating and teaching people. I've become a better person, because just the same as you get asked awkward questions that maybe you've never been asked before, and then you have to think about that moment, and you become stronger and grow from that, right? So not only do you give, but you receive at the same time.
100%. And it's just to like kind of really just get to that. It's the idea that, how do I put this in the right words? There's a reason, a season, or a lifetime. People are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. As to succinctly put, exactly as you said. And it's like the people have been in my life for a reason, for a season, or a lifetime, and there's a few of those. they've done so much good for me that I always want to pay forward. That's
And
literally it.
this is so powerful. There's no two ways about it. Adil, you've given so much value. So what I'm going to ask you is, how can people contact you? And know you've got a podcast. Tell us a bit more about that podcast and what it entails, and when is that going to start? So tell us that.
So I have a new show coming out, because I had a podcast for. Oh, by the way, get a little bit of reverb. But like I had a podcast for about 8 years that you guys can find on Spotify if you just Google my name. So Adil Amarsi, and there's like loads of great interviews on there. But I'm going to be launching a new show that comes out hopefully in the next 2 weeks. It's called it's both a solo show and with interviews as well. It's going to be called The Greatest Business Podcast Ever, where it's going to be a lot more fun. A lot more swearing as well, because obviously it's I'm nerfing my ability to swear right now because I'm fasting, but like it's going to be very much like an open conversation with everyone that I have on there, which is great. And where you can find me, honestly, if you find me on Instagram, like Instagram is your best friend to reach out to me. Like if you find me on @AdilAmarsi, which is just my first name and my last name, reach out to me. Just DM me, follow me on there, and DM me. You will most likely get a response. And when I say most likely, it's like a 90% to a 99% response time. If I don't respond, it's because I saw your message and thought I responded and didn't, but then you'll receive a response in about 2 months' time with me going, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't respond back to this. But if you do send me more than one message, like I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Like usually if it's been a week, then send me another message. Like, hey Adil, how's it going? Sorry, I don't know if you saw the message above. I was like, yeah, you know what, ADHD brain, it happens. So it's all good.
All right, Adil, thank you for your time. I really appreciate your time on here and being open, because there's things that are a sore point and you're willing to share yourself on here.
Thank you for having me, man.
But thank you, and I appreciate your time. And in the meantime, I hope you have the most wonderful day.
Thank you, and likewise. Hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you again for having me, guys. Appreciate it.